Welcome to day 11 of Scarin. And today we're talking about the Babadook. Babadook. We're talking about the Babadook from 2014, directed and written by Australian actress Jennifer Kent, who didn't go to film school. She did study acting, and she said that she got her film school education by being a production assistant for Lars von Trier in a movie called Dogville. You have many thoughts about Lars von Trier? I know you've seen a couple of those movies he's made, like Antichrist.
I like his stuff.
Nymphomaniac?
Not so much that one, but I like Melancholia was my favorite. I keep trying to get you to watch that, but you won't watch it.
I think it'll depress me too much.
No, it's really good.
So anyway, written and directed by Jennifer Kent. She said she'd been working on this for a while. She had made a short film before called Monster that she said had a lot of the themes that show up again in this, which was her first feature film that she directed. She went to school with one of the stars of this movie. This movie stars Essie Davis and Noah Wiseman. And Essie Davis went to school, like college, I think, with the writer and director Jennifer Kent. So that explains a little connection there and maybe how that casting took place. Did you notice any other recognizable actors? This is a relatively low-budget Australian film, so unless, like, Keith Urban or somebody shows up.
No, I totally, at first, didn't pick out the accents for a little bit until they started talking a little bit more, because I said out loud, "Are they British?" And then I said, "Oh no, they're Australian." Like some of the things that they
It was filmed in
so
Adelaide, wherever that is. I don't know where Adelaide is.
it's in the northern part of.
Okay.
I think it's in the northern part of Australia.
I prefer Marmalade to Adelaide. But yes, no other recognizable actors in this movie. As I said, a relatively low-budget Australian film made for a budget of $2 million. And the box office returned $10.7 million. So not quite the windfall of cash that something like Paranormal Activity had, but still, 5 times your budget, not bad. But the film was a pretty big flop in Australia. It made more money its opening weekend in the UK than it did during its entire run in Australia.
Wow.
So worldwide, the box office was $10.7 million. It was only about $335,000 or $350,000 in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently they don't like this kind of spooky stuff.
That's crazy. I think it was great.
Well, maybe when every single thing around you's constantly trying to kill you, you want to go see a good comedy like that Crocodile Dundee. You don't want to see no Babadook going on. Maybe a little Mad Max, a little Babe Pig in the City. Wait, that Babe Pig in the City wasn't Australian, was it?
No.
Just the director was Australian. Well, before we go any further, I just want to give everybody a spoiler warning because whenever I talk about a movie, television show, book, etc., I can't help it. I got to get into all the details, and that means there's going to be spoilers. So if you don't want to have the Babadook spoiled, the movie's just a shade over 10 years old. Maybe you haven't seen it yet. You don't want it spoiled, just stop watching. Go watch the Babadook. You can always come back to us later, or you can do absolutely whatever you want because I don't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad. This was another tough synopsis for me to come up with, Karen. So I'm going to let you tell me where I fell short, what I either mentioned too much of or maybe what I mentioned not enough of. I'll let you help me out. But let me tell you what I got here. A single mother and her only child go through a difficult period after reading a disturbing book.
I don't think that's quite it. I mean, yeah, I think they were going through a disturbing period before the book. So, I would just say a mother and her son are dealing with a supernatural creature. A mother and her son, yeah.
I don't think there's anything supernatural in this movie, though.
Yes, there is.
Oh, we're going to have a good
discussion. The creature is like supernatural.
The creature isn't real.
I know, but in her mind it's real, but it still presents itself as a supernatural creature.
Okay, but
a monster. I mean, it presents itself as a monster, even though she and her son are the only ones that see it.
Well, this is a psychological horror film.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you like psychological horror, psychological thrillers. I tend not to like things like Shutter Island. I did like that Identity
I
movie.
liked
That's
Shutter
one of those.
Island.
But for the most part, I don't
Mm.
like stuff where you realize that a significant part of it was all a delusion or a dream. I tend not to
You didn't
like
like
that.
The Sixth Sense?
That wasn't a dream or a delusion. That was all real.
Well, it was sort of a delusion. It was like
Well,
they were
just
they
because
were.
somebody doesn't know that they're dead doesn't mean that they're still not dead.
I don't think it was all about like the kid. Really, it was more about.
Well, for this, okay, I'm sorry to digress,
Mm,
but in my opinion, for the Sixth Sense to be like this, that would mean at the end there never was a Bruce Willis, there never were any dead people. It was all just a dream that Haley Joel Osment had. That would have made it like this. But
okay.
ghosts really exist in the Sixth Sense. The Babadook does not really exist in the world of the Babadook.
Okay.
That's why that I guess is the difference. I like for the thing when we were talking about one of the other movies that we saw recently. Oh, it was the Graveyard Shift,
Hmm.
and they unveiled that the big rat bat thingy was there in the cold opening, and I said I was glad they established that up front so I could emotionally invest in this movie, because I don't like to emotionally invest when it all turns out it's psychological.
Hmm.
And so I bring negative baggage into psychological horror or other psychological movies. But I was just curious, how do you feel about them in general? Do you like them more or less, or about the same as other kinds of movies?
I like them because I think it's interesting to learn about them. So, and
I
I think
always,
it's interesting how the mind works.
I always kind of got the idea that you enjoyed that a lot more than I did, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to assume on your behalf. That's why I was asking.
Was that Identity was the one about the multiple personalities,
Yeah,
right?
we don't want to spoil too much about things that aren't this movie.
Anyway, I mean, I think I like them. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that movie. So
yeah. Well,
this one's a little more horrifying because it's a mom and a kid, and I feel like I could relate to what she was going through.
so I think that establishes in where each of us are coming from with this. I think you're going to be probably easier to please with the story that we have here than I am, but we'll see. That doesn't mean you're going to be more pleased than I am, or vice versa. It just means that that's kind of the expectation I'm taking into this.
Hmm.
Now, do you remember the first time you saw this movie? This feels to me like another one we watched together on video.
Yeah, we watched it on Hulu when it first came
Oh,
out
was it
because we'd
Hulu
heard
when we
about it.
saw it?
Yeah, when we
Okay.
heard about it, like we were at home in our other house, our old house.
Yeah, because this is like I said, 11 years ago, almost 11 years
Yeah.
ago. So
I don't know if our kids, maybe one of our kids watched it with us because I feel like that
I'm
they
sure.
did. Because I remember them talking about, like when I talked to Silas about it today, he was like, "Oh, I remember that movie," and he's watched it a couple times since then. So he likes that kind of stuff too.
So do you remember your first impressions on it? Is it one that you've come back to a few times, or is this like the second time you've seen it? Because it's probably only the second time I've ever
I think
seen
it's
it.
only the second time I've seen it, but it also reaffirms what we had discussed about it after we'd watched it the first time.
Yeah. I remembered it making me uncomfortable. I think that's a big part of why I don't like psychological stories, horror, thrillers in particular, is it just kind of makes me uncomfortable. Something about it does, and I can't explain it. Like the TV show Legion that we talked about with the last episode we recorded with
Hmm.
Daniel Stevens, that a lot of that's set in a mental hospital, and something about it just made me so uncomfortable. I had trouble enjoying that first season. Later, I was able to get over that, and it's a pretty good show.
I think
But
it's uncomfortable because you're close to
well, yeah,
the storyline, I guess. I mean, not exactly what happened, but I think like as
but
far as like
but yeah, it does.
behavioral, mental health type things.
And also, I mean, it was just me and my mom growing up, and
Hmm.
my mom had pretty poor mental health and spent time in inpatient mental health care and things of that nature. And she wasn't real well controlled. And when she had manic episodes, it was a lot like what we see the mom having here. So a
Hmm.
lot of that gets real uncomfortable for
Yeah.
me. And then there's some other issues of grief and loss and what happens to people when they don't deal with their loss and they
Hmm.
don't process their grieving. And some of that strikes a little close to home for me, too. So
Hmm.
when I say that the movie makes me uncomfortable and that I don't like the movie, it doesn't mean it's not a good movie. In fact, it means it's a very, very well made movie to be able to connect with my emotions on that level and make me uncomfortable. But the point is, I don't like the way the movie makes me feel, so
Right.
I hope I never have to watch it again. But I
Right.
have seen it twice, and that's why after watching it the first time, I would not have probably watched it again if not, for the purposes of this show. And because you watch every single crappy thing I ask you to, the least I can do is watch
This
something
is
good.
not crappy.
You didn't
No.
let me finish my sentence.
Yeah, okay.
The last movie I recommended to you was crappy, and I
Mm-hmm.
said you watch every crappy thing I recommend. So the least I can do is watch a good movie that you recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, the
Yeah.
least. But it's not that it's not good. It just makes me uncomfortable, probably because it is so good. So we'll see how professional I can be with my pumpkin rating.
Mhm.
Now, do you think that you being a mom makes you experience this story differently?
Yeah.
Because, we talk about my experience is going to impact me from the son's point of view, especially around his age. That's a time when the treatment options for my mother weren't as good as they were later in life.
Mhm.
So even at that particular age, I'm watching this and relating to the son. But I'm curious, you as a mom, how do you watch it? You probably view it through the mother's lens, I would imagine, and how overwhelmed she probably is and how much of a handful that kid is through no fault of his own, really. He, for understandable reasons, is not well adjusted, but it's still a handful for the poor mother with no help.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think if I wasn't a mother, I wouldn't relate to it. I mean, I think it would be horrifying, but then also I would have more opinions on the child and why, like, he's just a bad child. He's just acting out. You know what I mean? Like, I would think about those things and not from a mother's point of view. But because I'm a mom, I think about what she's going through and how she's processing her grief and that she isn't really processing her grief. And then I thought, well, maybe because he died while she was having him or the night that she had him, that she had a lot of postpartum depression and it was never dealt with, and that's how it manifested. It's grief postpartum. Um, Also, the in the beginning when the kid was just acting out, she's just zoning out. I remember those
Yeah.
parts of like childhood where
Yep.
the kids are acting up. I mean, there were times that we were in the car and the kids would be screaming, and I would just be driving, and you would be sitting there like, "Oh my God, how do you deal with this?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't hear anything." You know what I mean? So
And
you
I
just
hear
kind of
everything.
like,
I've got sensory sensitivity or
yeah,
something. I can't even handle I'm just weird. That's all I'll
yeah,
say. Things bother me that don't bother
hmm
other people. So when the kids would be carrying on,
hmm
it would cause internal distress for me.
yeah. Well, I think also what bothered me is that her sister, I think it was her sister, um,
I didn't know who the lady was.
I
I thought
think
it
it was
was
her
just a
sister.
friend or
Well,
something.
he later he says his cousin. I think
Okay,
the two of them had a.
yeah.
That's why they share a birthday party because
What
they were
I
really
thought
close.
it was the sister of his father, so it wasn't really her family, but they got an invite because they were family before the father died.
That could be it
Yeah,
too.
because if that was her own sister treating her that way, that'd be even worse. But it felt to me like even his family doesn't want to have anything to do with the child now that he's gone. She
Yeah,
really is all alone. That's what I thought it was saying. But I also
I can see
project a
it from
lot
both
of.
sides though because they're the way she was like. I mean, his family won't get over it because they're more like, yeah, she was in love with him. It was her husband, but they're blood related. You know what I mean? But just the
Yes.
way she was talking to her and was like, it was 7 years ago. It's time to get over it. I mean, you can't put a timeline
Yeah, I
on grief.
agreed.
And
Agreed.
so some of the things that she said were disturbing. And I feel like that it felt to me more like a blood sister that would say something like that instead of
Okay.
someone that would be related to the other one. Because they wouldn't be quick to get over it either. You know what I mean? So
I
unless she
sure.
just didn't have a good relationship with her brother. So,
Sometimes I just project what I want the story to say over what it actually does say
yeah.
sometimes. And I guess it was Mark Twain that said, "Don't let the truth stand in the way of a good story." Well, I won't let the story I'm watching stand in the way of the story I think I'm watching
Mhm.
if I like it.
But
Uh,
but sadly, there were some other areas that I could relate to, I guess, in the way she snapped at the kid. You know, there about what there was nothing to eat or something, and she was like, "Just leave me alone. I don't like go eat. go eat shit is what she said. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like that there may or may not have been times that I've said that out loud or even just thought that. You know what I mean? Just as a stressed out like mom. So it's really sad, and I'm gonna admit that us moms are not perfect, and we do sometimes say things that we don't really mean, but we just want people to like, just leave
Yeah.
us alone. So
If you moms were perfect, then what use would they have for dads?
yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of curious. Like the palette to me looked very subdued and very dingy. I think is the word dingy. Uh, Ominous might be another word. It seems to invoke feelings of despair. So I'm curious, what do you think about the lighting and the color palette in
I
this movie?
agree. I think it went well with it was well thought out. I think to convey what they wanted to set the mood for, especially like the house being really dark, the doors being dark, the front door being dark, the walls and the trim, like everything in the house was just very blah. And I think it all goes with like how people feel. They don't feel happy and feel, those bright colors. But I think towards the end of the movie it got a little lighter. Like after the part where the light shone in her face and she scared the Babadook, and then she pushed it down into the basement, I believe. So it was, I mean, the grief was still there. It was still lurking, ready to come out, but she would push it away. But I think it was dark and dingy down where she kept it. But then the house, I felt like, was a little brighter and stuff in the end.
Yeah, they definitely lightened up the
Mm-hmm.
lighting at the end and had the wardrobe. I think with a little bit of pastel in it. It almost looked
Mm-hmm.
like it
Mm-hmm.
was to represent springtime or something. The way the house was decorated just really communicated. It really communicated a feeling of hopelessness. Almost, by the way, when I say decorated, the fact that almost nothing was
It was very
decorated.
minimal.
Yeah, it looked like I don't know, like if somebody's lost everything they own and they just go out and get an
Mm-hmm.
apartment and move in and they don't have anything yet, and it's already a pretty lower rent apartment because they're not doing well financially, so it doesn't even, you almost need some furniture and some stuff to hide a little bit of the ugly around the edges. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just all laid bare. It's
And
like
there's
that.
only one picture. There was a picture of her and her husband, but there were no pictures of the child. It's almost like she
That
was very resentful.
and I think that comes back up at the end when he's having a birthday party and he says it's the first year he's ever had a birthday party, and she explains, well, his father died the day he was born, so I don't celebrate his birth. And I think that
Hmm.
that's immediate one-to-one connection and resentment. And she turned her son into her Babadook there for a while.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
So what's your opinion of that creature design on the Babadook?
Oh, I
And
loved it. I
did
think my favorite part of this movie was the book,
I love the
the drawings.
I love the way that the book looks like a one-of-a-kind handmade book and not a mass-produced book. I really
Yes.
like that.
Uh huh.
I read a little bit about the illustrator they hired to do that, and it seems like he's a pretty darn cool, talented artist, but I didn't really
Hmm.
keep any interesting nuggets to share with you here
Yeah.
about that.
I love books that were made in this way because I had a lot of books like that when I was a child, the kind that you interacted with and you opened
It
things and
feels
you
like a
pulled the
very
tabs and they moved and stuff.
it seems like a very in the interwar period in England kind of thing. Like old timey England, but not like Victorian old timey, but like 1932 or something.
I
Or
guess. I
maybe in the
mean,
post-war period. It just has like an old-timey, like Mary Poppins. The kids in Mary Poppins, I could see reading books like that. So whatever time period Mary Poppins is.
I don't know. I read a lot of books like that in the 80s. There were a ton
Well,
of
they
books that
were.
were pull tab books,
I
is what they called
understand,
them.
but they were like flashier. They didn't have the delicateness. This, like how this actually looks like a one-of-a-kind handmade. Those that we would get at the Scholastic Book Fair were almost like cardboard or
Those are not the
cardstock.
kind I'm talking about, though,
Okay.
because I didn't get books like that. We never got books at the book fair when I was growing up.
I didn't either, but I
But
imagine
no, I
that's where
had the
rich
old
kids
timey
did.
the old timey books because I had those paper doll books where you had to cut them out and fold the edges back and change their
That
clothes. I mean, those were the kind of books that
that feels like Little House on the Prairie kind of thing.
I don't know.
Your paper
My
dolls.
grandmother bought those for us, but we had a lot of those like really thick books like that had that like a canvas cover on them, And maybe they weren't exactly like hand drawn and they were mass produced, but they looked like maybe they were um,
It just
one of a
all
kind, but they weren't.
it
You
just
know,
all feels very English to me for some reason.
yeah.
Some of those certain style, and then I can see Australia the way that
Hmm.
much like the United States here, a former British colony,
Hmm.
so maybe they'd have some of that English flair passed on down there. I don't
Well,
know.
and you're a bit older than me too, so I feel like those
The
maybe
kids,
those books you didn't read those kind of books in the 70s, but it was
I
more of a
wasn't alive
thing.
in the 70s. Come on, I wasn't reading books in the 70s.
Yeah, you were. Were you not looking at books when you were 5 and 6 years old?
No,
Yes, you were. Anyway, no, I love
I
those
was too
books. I
busy
even tried
smoking
to
cigarettes and playing lawn
I
darts.
even tried to recreate those kind of books too when
Oh,
in
that would be
children's books.
exciting.
Like those are
Yeah.
fun. They're fun to do, just the mechanics of it and figuring out how they work and
Did
stuff like
Did
that.
you run
So
across one of the characters from an old lost black and white movie that was the inspiration for the design of the Babadook?
probably the Nosferatu
No,
guy.
no,
Like,
no. That's not the one.
oh,
Nosferatu's
there's the
not.
one that the guy that creeps with the hat. Isn't that's not?
Nosferatu doesn't have a
Or
hat.
okay, well maybe this was like a silent film or something where he
Well,
like
I do know
creeps.
the answer if you will let me share.
Well, I mean, you asked me if I would want to
Okay.
guess it, and I'm describing it to you.
Okay. You're wrong. You want to get some more? Can I tell you?
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
So, a lost film, Nosferatu is not a lost film because you
Okay.
can watch that. But this is a movie, I think it's called London After Midnight. And there's a character that's known as the man in the beaver hat. And if you look at a picture of him, it's pretty clear that Babadook's a whole lot like him, but like the top hat is the big thing. So maybe that is the person you're thinking of creeping around in a top hat. I don't know. But
I've never heard of Bob the Beaver or
it's
whatever you just said.
it's the man in the beaver hat.
Okay. Whatever.
He probably had a real name, but it's a silent movie that we've lost most of. So they don't know the name of the character, so they call him by his description, and he's wearing a top hat made from beaver.
Why do they call it a beaver hat?
Because top hats at the time were made from beavers.
Okay.
That's why beavers almost went extinct. I'm serious. People had to have them beaver top hats
Anyway,
in England.
I see him more of a Jack the Ripper type, I guess. Could be
Yeah.
kind of like that too.
I think that this guy in London After Midnight was based on Jack the Ripper. So the man in the beaver hat, that famous movie.
You mean
monster,
Bob? Bob the Beaver?
Bob the Beaver. If I find a copy of that movie, we're gonna have to watch it and talk about Bob the Beaver. You make me laugh. I've been pretty depressed. I literally finished watching this movie about 30 minutes before we sat down to record.
Same.
So I was very depressed. So at least you gave me a little laugh
Oh,
here.
I
That
wasn't
movie,
depressed. It
well,
had a good ending.
not so much. But anyway,
Eh.
we'll talk more about that when we get there. How did you feel about the kid's performance? That little kid
Dude, I
was
mentioned that
good.
to Silas. I was watching it as I was taking him somewhere, and I said, "Man, that little kid is an awesome performer. I think
Very,
he's great.
very authentic.
Yes,
His performance was very believable.
intelligent. It's very intelligent acting.
I
I
hate
think.
to say something that might sound unappreciated if that child would hear it now, given that he's currently like 16.
Mhm.
But he's a creepy kid, and now he might not look creepy in real life. And they did some makeup and some hair and stuff to make him look creepy here. But he was great casting for a creepy looking kid.
Yeah.
He
I think
really,
his sunken eyes, the way they were, like when he wasn't getting enough sleep, the way
I
they
feel like
did
he's
those, and then he had some big old gummy, like a big gummy
one
smile.
part. I feel like he's one part Danny Torrance and one
Yeah.
part Damien from The Omen.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But boy, he's a good creepy kid.
Hmm.
How'd you feel about the mom's performance, Essie Davis?
Oh, I thought she was great too.
Oh,
She was very authentic and believable, genuine.
the child was good, and we're fortunate that the child was good because sometimes it can be difficult to direct, coach. Get the
Yeah.
kid's good, kid's not good. You can't yell and scream at the kid to make him better. You know what I mean? Or at least you shouldn't. But now Essie Davis, she really has to carry all the dramatic weight of this movie. This is almost her and a camera making a movie together.
Yeah.
And when she's breaking down, as her mental health deteriorates further and things get worse and she starts to potentially pose a threat to her son, She just conveys all that emotion so believably. She looks like she really needs a cigarette and a break.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I don't know if she's
She
a
needs
method.
someone to take the kid for like
I don't know
a
if maybe
weekend.
she's a method actor, so she spent like all day before she came to set volunteering at a daycare or something. So
Yeah.
she's already frazzled.
Well,
But she really looked like she was at her wits' end.
if we dig into her a little bit more, I mean, she may have suffered from postpartum, and she just used how she felt as a way to,
It's very
express herself.
possible.
I mean, who knows? Like, we could do some more research on her and see if she had kids, and how she was able to portray this mom. But I think she did it really well.
Did it get to you at all when the mom unalived the puppy? That was probably the toughest scene to watch.
Um, it didn't bother me because I knew it was coming, and I think I knew it was coming because the book predicted it. So, I mean, I was
I
expecting when to see it.
I forgot about that part from when I saw it before, and I just didn't pick up on the clues in the book because it caught me off guard a little
Yeah.
bit, and the sound effects and the way that it looked, and then just the limp dog there. I thought that was pretty upsetting. I think that's going to be very triggering for a lot of people. There are
Yeah.
some animal folks that can't handle seeing cruelty to animals. Like
Yeah.
it's way easier for them to see cruelty to human children than the animals, just how they're made.
I think the part that got me, though, it didn't like really affect me as much. I mean, yeah, you didn't see it actually happening. You saw her standing there, and you hear the noise and the neck break or whatever. But I think the part that I was just shook my head at was when she dropped it on the floor, and it was quite obviously a stuffed animal. So that wasn't as disturbing to me because I
Well,
could pick that out. You know what I mean?
it didn't bother me because you probably didn't notice, but if you pay careful attention in Shrunken Heads, they switched a stuffed animal cat for a live cat.
I
at one
saw
part in
that
movie,
part too.
and it's totally seamless.
Yeah, no, it's not. It was absolutely terrible.
What did you think about the makeup and effects in this? Most of the effects, according to the director, and if anybody knows, you'd imagine that she'd be the one who would know, but she said all the effects were practical. There's some stop motion that they used a little computer smoothing on, but they used stop motion for the Babadook. There's no CGI in this.
Yeah.
And the makeup really, I think, is a big part of that Essie Davis conveying her descent into insanity, too. I think
Yeah.
they did a good job with hair and makeup to make her look ratchet.
Yeah, but not only was it her, she was taking the kid with her. So the kid was also getting a little more disheveled, each time. And you could tell he wasn't getting enough sleep because he had the black circles around his eyes. And then I think with the first look at the Babadook in person, I think was really cool. When
Yeah.
we saw him on the other side of the old lady when she was sitting in there watching TV. So I think he was there with her as well.
That old movie that she like found and watched with like the sepia toned footage or what have you.
Uh-huh.
And there was like a human version of the Babadook in that, and that dude was creepy. And then there's like a lady looking thing with like green hair with pigtails and like the big long nose.
I
That stuff was really
remember
creepy.
that. And what movie was she watching?
I couldn't figure out where she found it or why she was watching it, but it was like an old silent movie of the Babadook.
Oh, I don't think I remember that part. The only part I remember is her watching that love story and then her going into her room and being interrupted by her son.
Yeah, this comes at a later time. As she
Okay,
started
so
to
I
sing.
must not have like seen that. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, where she's just sitting there like staring
Yeah.
at the TV. I don't think I paid attention to what was on the
Because
TV.
it's got like an actor like with flesh, like just like a white Australian dude,
Yeah.
all Babadooked out, and it's pretty creepy. Because I'm not sure
I'll have
what
to
they
go back
did
and
for
look
his
at that.
makeup. Yeah, and then there's another character that's like a lady Duke or something, a lady Babadook. She's pretty creepy. I think it's probably a male actor because of the quirky look of that face. I feel more comfortable saying that it's an ugly dude than an ugly lady. So anyway,
I think they were effective.
I
They did
agree with you
exactly
on that.
what they wanted it to do, and it worked.
I mentioned Danny Torrance before,
Mm.
and I'm just curious if you see any parallels between this movie and The Shining.
Not really. I mean, The Shining, like he could talk to people, the little person that lived inside of him, the Shining. But
I
don't-
guess take the supernatural elements out of it, but in The Shining, it's a boy in a remote location, a boy and his mom, in a remote location where
Mm-hmm.
the father starts melting down mentally because he's not dealing with the problem he has,
Yeah.
and he poses a potential threat to his child. And it's also very psychological, and you don't know when he's really seeing ghosts and when he's hallucinating because of alcohol withdrawal.
Yeah,
Especially the
but I
Kubrick.
didn't pick any of that out. I
On the
just
Kubrick Shining, you didn't pick that up.
no, I did
Okay,
not
you
pick
haven't
out
watched
the.
it in a very long
I
time, I
did
bet.
not pick out the alcoholism. I mean,
It's not
I
even
think that was just
it's not even covert.
okay.
I mean, like he
He
goes
sat
to
at
the
the
bar.
bar. I know he
Yes,
sat at the bar and he drank, but I didn't think that that was alcoholism. I just thought whatever supernatural was
he
in the place was just taking over him.
we're not here to discuss The Shining,
I
so I
know.
don't want to get too far off track. But part of the problem, he went to the Overlook and didn't have access to alcohol and started going into withdrawals. So you don't know how much are
Okay,
hallucinations
see,
and how
I
much is
didn't see
supernatural.
any of that at all.
Okay, but
Because
it's there.
so
I mean, it's like
okay, because I've read the book. I didn't
okay.
pick any of that out. I just thought he went crazy.
Do you want me to find the lines of text
No,
and
but that's
offer them up?
okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Anyway, so you don't see many parallels between this and The Shining because I
No.
saw this as The Shining, where instead of Danny's father, it's Danny's mother, and the context is different and things manifest differently, but it kind of felt similar to me in that general tone.
Now maybe if the dad wasn't there and it was the mom that went crazy, then I could see the parallel. But I did
Well,
not see the.
the I guess what I'm saying the parallel is it mirrors it in that one is about a father's descent into madness and the other's about a mother's descent into madness. Because you wouldn't just want two that were both fathers or two that were both mothers. You like to look at it from a different point of view.
I know, but like I feel like because there were two parents in the one
Yes.
kid, and there was one parent in the one kid. There's a difference in that.
I think
There's
that
a big difference
I
in that.
think the reason is because of the power dynamic between men and women in most traditional relationships. So if you had a father who was playing the Shelley Duvall role, the viewer would expect that father to be quite effective at protecting the child from the mother. However, when you have the mother like Shelley Duvall, she's seen as a victim rather than a protector. So you can't really have the father in this story, and then it also works as a catalyst for the grief. So I think that's why the father's not here, but I do think it parallels pretty well.
I don't agree.
Okay,
Not
that's
at all. I
fine.
think that was a lot of rambling about. No, I
Okay.
don't think
Well,
so.
I just like I
I
like
don't
sharing the
agree.
way I see it. That's all, and let people hear what I'm thinking, and you don't have to agree. That's cool. What did you think of the ending? They try to give us a positive ending, or did they? Let's talk about this ending.
I think they did. I think she dealt with her grief and she pushed it down a little farther. It wasn't on the surface, but I think dealing with it, like she dealt with it there towards the end, and it's always going to be there. It
Right.
just might not be as prominent, and she just kept instead of
And
letting it creep over and take over her life again, she kept it at bay, but it's still there.
and not only is she keeping it at bay, but she has to do. They're showing us that it takes constant work, daily work. You don't
Mhm.
just. It's not something that you don't kill the Babadook and problem solved right off into the sunset. It's more like uh, depression, addiction, diabetes, hypertension, glaucoma, lots of chronic
Mhm.
illnesses that you can reduce the harm that's caused by that illness, but it requires effort every single day,
Yeah.
and it's awfully hard. No matter how important it is, it's awfully hard to not go a day and forget to take your medicine.
Yeah.
And so when I see this, that bowl of worms is like taking your medicine, takes it down there. The Babadook and her have a tense standoff, and then the worms pacify the Babadook. But maybe there's a day they don't get enough worms. There's a day that she can't make it down there. It's telling me that the Babadook is going to reemerge and have to be battled back down, just like addiction always has relapses, just like mental health is not something where you take your medicine and you're fixed forever. It's something you have to deal with every single day of your life. And you will have more episodes of doing and experiencing things you wish you didn't do and experience, but the goal is to know how to deal with them when they happen, to make them happen less often. But it's always going to be there. I think that's kind of a sad ending to me, to know that this mom and this kid can have a better life than they were having during the movie, but they'll never have a life as good as people that are Babadookless. And once you got a Babadook, there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. And some
Well,
of us get Babadooks when we're just little kids and we live our whole life without being able to get rid of them. And that kind of bums me.
I think in her case, the Babadook was a metaphor for her grief, but I think everybody has a Babadook.
I think that's an excellent point of view.
Yep. It just manifests itself in a different way. So I think she has to just keep her um, thoughts, at bay. And I think she's protecting her son, keeping it away from her son too, because I don't think he experiences grief. He experiences the Babadook in a different way. I think when he was lashing out in the car and he was acting like he could see something that she couldn't see, I think he saw his own Babadook.
Oh, I didn't even think about that
Yeah,
possibility.
so I think he's dealing with that. So she's keeping the actual Babadook from him. He never saw her Babadook. Did you notice that?
I never even thought about
Mm-mm.
the idea that the Babadook he's seeing and the Babadook she's seeing are not the same Babadook. I never even considered that for a moment. So no,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
When he's being pulled up the stairs, and it's just like he doesn't know what's happening and he's getting thrown around and stuff. He's getting the the brunt of her Babadook hurting him, but he can't see her Babadook. He doesn't know what is happening. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's like doesn't understand it. But she also doesn't see his Babadook. Like he sees, I really think he sees his own Babadook in the car. She turns around. She's like, "What are you looking at? Who are you talking to?" He's talking to his own Babadook, and he's dealing with his in his own way.
I really like that. That adds a whole new dimension to the movie. I never
Hmm.
considered that even for a moment. Now that you mention it, it makes me think about it a little bit differently. It's
Yeah.
an excellent observation, in my humble opinion. Thank
Well,
you
I
for that.
think that's what also makes it like scary too, is she doesn't understand what he's seeing and he doesn't understand what she's going through because he wasn't born. He just feels like he was the cause of her
Yeah.
Babadook, but even though
So
he can't see hers.
So this is what this particular movie is really all about, our
Hmm.
themes. And we've already talked about a few of the big ones, but let's go ahead and recap that. What are the themes you see in this movie?
I think I kind of just talked about that a little bit. I think everybody has their own Babadook to deal with, and they deal with it in their own way, and try not to let it get the best of them. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's what she's dealing with here is her mental health, and then also his mental health too.
I think the thing most people see here is the issue of grief, and processing grief is hard work and takes time, and you don't
Hmm.
just do it in a single weekend, you know?
Right. Hmm.
So I definitely see that. The creator herself has said something about it also represents the fear of mental illness.
Hmm.
So like something that you see coming and you think you can just almost I'm trying to think of the right
Like
way to put
ignore it.
this. Yes. Yes, exactly. Like you think you can use willpower, like you can be stronger than mental illness, like like forget about the I'm just making up a number, forget about the 700 million people on earth who deal with it. I'm stronger than all of them, so all I have to do is just not let the symptoms happen, and therefore that is sort of a feeling that I've had
Hmm.
with my family history. And I think that might be what she's communicating here is like you see it coming for you, and there's like denial. There is no Babadook. The Babadook's not real. To
Hmm.
suddenly it consumes her, where she's not even thinking for herself. The Babadook is making her uh, maybe plan to hurt her child.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it clearly looked like. And then
Hmm.
once she gets a little acceptance that no, I in fact am not stronger than this, and that I do need to actually do the things that are recommended or do the things that work in this situation instead of thinking that might work for everybody else, but it doesn't really apply to me. That idea of exceptionalism that gets let go, she starts doing the work, and then things get better. So I see that kind of metaphor and storyline, but I think there's a lot here about motherhood that maybe I'm not the one who's most qualified to talk about, but I do think that there's a whole lot of about how much is expected of a mom and how little help there is, and how much judgment you get when you don't do it right, but how little accolades you get when you do it right.
Hmm.
So I think that there's a whole lot of that there that maybe I just don't quite, I'm not attuned enough to fully appreciate, but I can tell that it's there.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of it for the themes I had, even though I'm sure there's a whole lot here about, single parent dynamic, only child dynamic, declining social support, pride, because the mother doesn't, she's like, how will it look if you have to go to this old lady with Parkinson's to help you because your own mom can't help you.
Yeah.
But that mom could have used a little help. And that lady with Parkinson's maybe isn't physically the strongest, but she had a good mind and a good heart, and she could have maybe been a good shoulder to cry on and help process that grief a little bit. For that, she might have been a real good resource if the mom had let her in.
I think when she saw the Babadook over the lady's shoulder, she saw that lady was maybe dealing with her own.
Now that you're putting this, everybody's got their own Babadook. It's starting to sound like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with everybody having their own stand. So I got to think more about that. Did you have a favorite kill in Babadook?
There wasn't anything
The
killed
puppy?
except the dad got killed.
And the puppy. So is it the dad or the puppy?
I wouldn't say like I don't think it'd be the puppy because
So you liked it when the dad died?
I don't like any of them. There just wasn't really any like kills. I
would say
there wasn't the horror in this. I guess
it killed my will to have fun.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can tell, Karen. Like, I normally have a lot more fun in these videos than I'm having right now. I'm even acting a little bit like a jerk, I'm afraid, and I don't mean to do that. But I think it's because this movie it's too close to home for me. It hits me too much, and it makes me feel unhappy. What was your favorite shot? This does have some really good shots in it.
I have two. One of my favorites is the book, just the pictures of the book and how it actually works, and then when it gets closer to when it zooms in and how it gets scarier and scarier. And the one that really sticks out is when she goes to kill herself and the red comes out and you're like, oh my goodness, is that really blood coming out of the book? But no, you can tell it's a piece of paper that was just pulled so that
I remember that
down.
scene. That was a pretty cool effect.
Yeah, that was
I
interesting. I really like that one. And then the other one that really sticks out was when she's going really super crazy and she's climbing the wall like a freaking like a monkey. You know what I mean? Like
when she kicks the door down,
when she jumps on the door, and I'm like, good Lord, like what is in her to do that? Like now, I know you've said that your mom had like manic episodes, but I cannot picture your mom doing something like that, like no jumping flips on something and going crazy like that.
I think my favorite shot, I'm pretty sure my favorite shot is I was just thinking about it then we started talking. Oh, I remember now. And you may not remember this because it just kind of, it wasn't real obvious or forced or anything, but there's a part where she sort of bows up and gets really aggressive with her son, and it's almost like she lifts up in the air and floats towards him instead of walking. It looks like she glides towards him. And it was a effect that they didn't use in any other shot in the movie, and it's kind of cool maybe to communicate to how otherworldly an adult might look to a child when you're looking at a move over there. But I was like looking closely to see if all of a sudden she had turned into a witch who could fly and if she was going to float up to the ceiling or something. But it was this weird thing where it's like she just barely levitated a little bit, glided towards him, and then sat back down. And I think maybe that's just a really cool shot that I think it was a Polish cinematographer that she was working with. Maybe he just really wanted to get that shot, or maybe they're trying to say something with it. I don't know, but it's an interesting shot and kind of out of place.
I really liked the shot at the beginning too, the start of the movie where
when the car crashes.
Yeah, where she's dreaming and then the glass is coming through, because later, she's eating that soup and there's a piece of glass in her soup and you're like, what in the world?
She blames the poor little kid for it too.
Yep. And then there was another dream sequence too where she's falling onto the bed. I thought that was a really cool shot too, where it looked like she's dreaming and her hair's out and she's just,
I always kind of
don't know that she's falling, but she's just
like
floating down to the bed.
Those slow-mo short falls like that, like we saw Justin Long had in the Jeepers Creepers we did a couple days ago. I like those. So this movie clearly found a place with you. I think that you connected with this movie and you enjoyed this movie. But what I want to know is, what grade would you give this movie on account of how scary it is? What's scare grade?
I would give it an A+.
I give it an A+ too. Scariest movie I've seen since Paranormal Activity. So I'm not.
Yeah, and that one felt real until the end. But like This one, I think
This one feels
this
a
one
little,
feels a lot more realistic,
yeah.
so
But I'm giving it an A plus too.
yeah. Actually, and
This is the wrong kind of scary.
even though it's scary, I mean, it's kind of horror. Well, I guess it's considered horror scary, but I would recommend this one to people who don't like to watch horror movies because it's a little more realistic and it has more of a metaphor for grief and stuff. So
Yeah. What about the pumpkin rating?
definitely a 5.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is where I finally reconcile everything. Even though this movie makes me very uncomfortable, it's ridiculous that a movie this good is somebody's first movie. It's ridiculous that this movie was made for only $2 million. It's ridiculous that people in Australia don't like this movie.
Yeah, I
But you know what?
agree.
It's brother, do what you want to do. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just surprised. That's
Yeah.
all. Just surprised. I never want to watch this 5 pumpkin movie ever again. But it is a
I
five
like
pumpkin.
it. I see something different every time I watch it. I think
It's
it's
a
just
5 pumpkin movie
artistically
that
well done.
that if you like elevated horror, this is the first elevated horror we've covered this Halloween. So if you like elevated horror, if you like to think a little bit, if you like a little open-ended storytelling, a little equivocal, unreliable narrator at times, this is going to be for you. If you really like a more straightforward slasher or monster movie or something more traditional, I'll just tell you, you're going to be one of those people that say all the critics are stupid. This movie's awful. I think that if you really don't like thinking about how people are feeling and not just being afraid of the knife going into the skin, you might not like this one. But most people actually do appreciate the full spectrum of storytelling. So I think it's very rare the person I would tell to avoid this.
Yeah, this one's more cerebral. I think people that like to think about things, I think, would like this one better.
Yes. Well, as always, never give up. Make art, consume art, do what you love what you do.